Welcome back to the Practice Pulse, the show dedicated to helping private medical and wellness practices move past the operational bottlenecks that keep them stuck. I'm your host, Nancy Margrit with Optima Pro AI. My mission is simple: to help businesses like yours implement the automated workflows and marketing systems needed to scale efficiently. My background, which includes working extensively in nutritional wellness industry and designing high-converting sales systems for service-based businesses, gives me an insider's view on the systems that truly drive growth and patient lifetime value in this space. I am thrilled to welcome Megan Davidson, a licensed professional counselor, a clinical supervisor, and the co-owner of Candor Therapy Network. Megan, your practice is doing incredible work helping people navigate challenges like anxiety, OCD, and depression. Welcome to the Pulse.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Good. Megan, I want to start off with your journey. What was the vision behind Candor Therapy Network, and how do you balance the high demand for clinical excellence with the need for smart business growth?
Oh, yeah. So we started Candor Therapy Network as a reaction. Yeah, reaction to poor business practices. So the co-founders and I, we were all at a larger practice that was more corporate based than the smaller business we're working with. And it happened that when I came back from my first maternity leave, there were no accommodations for pumping. There was no, which is highly illegal. So not
Yeah.
great. And then it very quickly unfolded to, we can't continue. I can't keep doing this. This isn't ethical. This isn't, my integrity won't let me do these things. So I quit. And when we quit, we said, wait, but we could work together, right? We did the we should work together. I said, we should work together. We can do that. Wait, we could do that. And so what we did when we founded was we decided we wanted to find an ethically run practice. Right? So how does that work and how do we remain in that model? So that actually is the driving factor for how we are working as a company.
Love that. It's nice when you have a situation that kind of is negative and sometimes anxiety inducing, but you also find your people in that space, and it's like, okay, we see that this is a problem and we want to do something different about it. So I love that you took that initiative to break off and do your own thing so that you could continue to pursue your passion. That's actually a great origin story. So I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your actual practice. So your specialties are vital. You deal with anxiety, depression, perinatal mood disorders. What's the biggest misconception you see among new practitioners when they start their own practice, especially regarding the business side of things?
That's a big question. So we're trying to grow a practice of specialists, which I think is very rare in terms of, because most providers can see anxiety, depression. We come out of grad school being able to kind of handle that. But then when you start private practice, you don't really know how the sausage is made, right? Until you learn how the sausage is made. And then you go, oh, okay. And so I think we benefited from all of us being assistant clinic directors and clinic directors at that company. So we had kind of the background of, oh, this is how you pick an EHR and this is how you pick these different processes. Here's how we do marketing a little bit. So we all kind of a little flavor. People starting out in private practice, I think the first thing is that they think that insurance is really hard. It doesn't have to be. It's actually free to get credentialed if you do it yourself. Most people, you get bombarded with text messages about credentialed for $130 per person per panel. It is free. It is free to do. You just have to ask to be on a panel. And so I don't think people know that. Is it kind of annoying to go, why did they deny that? Yes. You just have to, once you have the time though, I think Friday mornings are my day that I'm calling insurance, right? Like, hey, can I just get it? But then once it's sorted, because you're going to have a client for 6 months, a year, if not longer, then it's sorted, right? So
Right.
it's less overwhelming, I think, once you know that. And then the other thing with specialties is that's really how you grow your practice. So almost all of my caseload is OCD and perinatal mood disorder. And so I focus very much on that. I have a few anxiety, a few just depression, but those are my things. And so when I get very good at that. And so you make a name for yourself doing the things that you are very good at. And people go, oh, no, you need to see this person because that's what they do. Right. So I think
Think that's
making
really
the name for
smart.
yourself, building the brand. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I think creating that niche for yourself is super important. I've experienced that seeking out therapists myself, where it's like, okay, you're going through this specific thing. You need to see this woman.
Right.
She knows.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And I think, of having, we all, when we find our own therapist, like, I need somebody who can work with this and who does that, right? Like, I've been experiencing this. And then you look for that thing in their profile. Like, do they work with obsessive thinking or do they work with this stuff? Because you want to know that the person you're going to be spending a lot of time with is going to be able to help you with the thing that you need.
Yeah, because you have all of that experience too. It's like you have done it so many times with so many different people. When something comes up, it's like, oh, I know what to do here.
Yeah.
So that's great. I love that. I love that piece of advice. So you utilize different modalities, including CBT, ERP, and DBT. I only know what one of those is. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that. But also for a practice owner who's looking to attract a high value patient, how important is it to clearly articulate these specialized modalities in your marketing and your patient-facing materials? Because some patients, like me, I don't know what some of those things are.
Right. I would honestly say most people don't know what those things are, right? You hear CBT. I mean, I can give you all the MI, ACT, DBT, right? That's just, I don't want to say dialectical behavioral therapy. I don't want to say, right? I don't want to say all of those letters. The only one, honestly, that I market myself more highly with is the ERP, because that is part of my specialty. So that's exposure and response prevention. It is the gold standard for OCD treatment. So when people start and they go see somebody who does cognitive behavioral therapy, which I'll give you a brief overview history. Freud, right, like taking it way back, was cognitive therapy, right? He sat with you, you talked, he said, and then years of psychoanalysis, right? Without of you coming to your own conclusion. It takes years. They still do it, but man, not quick. So cognitive, right? We add in Pavlov, ring a bell, dogs, right? We all know Pavlov, behavioral. Then we have how it connects, cognitive behavioral. So we look at your behaviors, we look at your thoughts, how they connect, and then where can we shift, right? So that is what most insurances will pay for, which is why most therapists come out having that training. The next wave is DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, that adds into those cognitive behavioral mindfulness and how do we structure a wise mind, right? So everything's kind of moving from those foundations. In terms of ERP, that's a specialized behavioral treatment. And because OCD is a lot of behaviors and compulsions, I need, sometimes it's not logical, right? Your brain says like, I don't want to, what if I drop my baby down the stairs? Okay, no, right? Like you're probably not going to do that, right?
Yeah.
If we are, we're having serious other issues, right? There's other
Mm-hmm.
conversations to have. But most of the time it's, okay, I know that's not logical, but my brain is saying it is. And how do I change it? We can't. It's hormonal, it's responsive. So the exposure is sitting in the anxiety. Part of it is, that's why I would market ERP. Some people, right, highly specialized, like have looked and they've done the Google researching about ACT is probably the best. Great. So that's why we put those on the website, but I don't know that it matters. So the number one thing in therapy, which is kind of wild, is your relationship with your therapist. If you like me, you are like 85% likely to get better. That's it. It doesn't matter. I can just sit in there and nod at you and reflect your feeling and say, oh, that sounds really sad. I'm so sorry you're going. How about this? Or it sounds like this. 85, like most of the therapy relation. Then we add in the ACT, the DBT, right? Then we add in those things, and that's how we see growth more quickly. But it is your relationship with your therapist. So if you if the vibes are right, that's what we're looking for.
It's so true. I went through two before I got to my current therapist, and it's like, okay, you're my person.
Yep.
You find that connection. I anytime somebody is like, oh, I hate therapy, I had this terrible experience. It's like, I'm like, you got to try again.
Try again.
You didn't mesh with that person. And that happens. You have that with anyone, really, like any relationship. But the therapist patient relationship is such a close interpersonal relationship. It's like, okay, we have to have somebody that we can connect with.
Yeah.
In order to have progress, like you said. I love that. And then I love that you're bringing in these different therapies and expertise because it's like, okay, now that we have this basis connection, now I can give you the tools you need to really excel. So that's awesome. Cool. So in the current climate, what is the most effective way that Candor Therapy Network is building trust and generating high quality patient referrals?
I think the presence that we're trying to hold. So I go to business development meetings. I have other co-owners who are going to business development, right? So we're meeting with those, we're meeting with other clinic directors. But if you look at our website, you look at our socials, we're posting consistently. It's usually very genuine, right? It's educational in content. We're always wanting to help people get better, even if you're not seeing us for therapy, right? Like you can always get a quick tip. There's usually Mindfulness Mondays, Tip Tuesdays, right? Our blog has things that, right now we're focusing our blogs on like boundary setting because that's all that we do in the holidays is boundary setting with families. So even if you're not seeking us for therapy, there are, right? We still have resources. We're still going to help someone through it. And I think that's how we're creating that presence is just because we are mostly a virtual company. We have a little office downtown Richmond, but she's one office strong.
Yeah.
So most of our therapists work out of their house. And so we have to have this really great online presence. And that is where we really strive. And our goal is to be known as how do we get people in with them?
Right.
How do we make sure our people are there? And so the more that we just tell people, like, that's my goal. I want to be the best. What can I do for you?
Yeah. Keeping it really patient focused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's great because you build that relationship, that reputation with all the community. And then, yeah, it's nice too that you're bringing in some educational pieces because it really is like, okay, now I already feel like I have a relationship with you. So it's easier to make that step of let's go ahead and start with a session. That's great. So a little bit about growth strategies and operational efficiency. You already sound efficient to me because you're like, we just have our one tiny office and we do all of our stuff online. I'm like, go for it. Like, I love it. I love COVID was awful, but it definitely propelled us into the virtual
It did.
space that we kind of needed.
Mm-hmm.
Wish it hadn't have happened in that way, but here we are.
Yep.
So let's talk about scaling a therapy practice. It can present some unique challenges, especially around scheduling, intake, patient follow-up. What's the most common operational bottleneck that you've had to solve at Candor to ensure that your therapists can focus on the clinical work that they're so passionate about?
I think ours is getting people from seeing our website to actually just scheduling because as owners, we're actually just therapists ourselves, right? I see clients Monday to Thursday. Today's my admin day, right? So if I don't answer the phone, that's our biggest issue is that I can't answer the phone. And so if people fill out our online form, which is our preference, or text, then we can get a client. But if we miss that phone call, we've often missed that client. And so we're building out a CRM. We're building out the ability to book online. We're trying, all of these different opportunities to how can we
Right.
get clients in the door so that clinicians can just focus on new client, let's go. Here's what I have.
That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like you're really working on some automations, which is what my expertise is in. So you said CRM. What do you think is like the biggest opportunity for technology and automation to kind of streamlining the patient journey? Is it just like literally getting them in the door? Is there like a follow-up that's needed? What's like the biggest thing from the first inquiry to the like long-term retention, keeping them there?
It's so hard to automate that because when I
Hmm.
do, first 15-minute phone, like I'd love to say like, let's get AI, let's like have a chat bot, like put it in.
Yeah.
But the problem is you miss things like this where it's the relationship. Or if I talk to somebody on the phone, I say, hey, if you hate them, it's fine. Just text me back and I'll schedule you with somebody else, right? We have no problems. You don't get that. And so I think sometimes people need a handhold when it's like, hey,
Mm.
this is the first time I'm reaching out. This is scary. They need that, hey, oh my gosh, you've been through so much. I am so sorry. Like, let's find the right person for you. And I think it's really hard to automate that
Mm.
voice in a caring way unless we have a human kind of behind it, uh, particularly for kind of new people to the sphere. So that's where
Yeah.
I don't know that we want to, how do we automate this and make it easier because I can't answer the phone and I don't want to hire somebody to answer when we, right?
Right.
Versus, I wish. So I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what else we could automate other than
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to have like when we talk about AI, I always like to preface it's not like just AI, you have to have the human element, not an
Mhm.
elephant. That would be weird. You have to have the human element or it just doesn't work. It's even if you're just using AI to draft an email, you can't just like type it in ChatGPT and be like, "I'll run with it." You have to go in and look before you hit send, you have to edit and you have to go through and say,
right.
okay,
Get rid of
this
that
sounds
double
weird.
dash so
Yeah,
it
the
doesn't
double
look like
dash. The double dash. Do you know what's so irritating though? I have been using the double dash in my writing
no.
since high school. It's like my favorite. I like saw it in a book somewhere and I was like, this is great. Cause I always like,
So
that's how my
good.
brain
Yeah.
works where I'm like, this like little and this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so like
Man, yeah.
since the like onset of
Can't use
AI, I'm
it.
like now I can't use it because it looks like I'm just like chat GBTing everything. So
Yep.
anyway,
Yep.
side note.
Yeah.
But the double dash, some people don't know that though. Like the double dash is like
I
the
know.
red flag of AI. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and
Yeah.
all of our socials, most of the captions are from I and it
Yeah.
isn't because I'm not sitting there taking the time to type it out or asking AI to proofread it. It's that I need Google to realize that I'm doing the thing that I say that I'm
Right.
doing. It has nothing to do with the fact that I won't do it, that I don't want to spend the time to do it. It is that Google will see their way that it's written
The
better
way
than
they want
I.
it written.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's how it
Yeah.
works, is that Google has to see that I'm a legitimate practice, that we're posting regularly, that we have things
Yeah.
about boundaries, and it has to be consistent, so I have to
Yeah.
use
Well, and that's what I think AI is great at, right? Is okay, AI takes the stuff that you need to get people to the place that they need to go where you can actually thrive in your expertise and actually help them, which is the human element. So you need some of that AI to get you to that place so you can do what you're passionate about and you don't need to be doing the things that you're not passionate about. You just need to get them to the place where you can help them. So I love that you should use AI for some social media posts. Like why not? And
Yeah,
it's helpful and as long as you're reading through it and making sure you're not saying crazy stuff, like I think it's a great tool for that. But yeah, the human element I think is super important. I think AI can help with some things like getting people in the door or scheduling like a little short intro call when you're not available or things like that. But for sure, like you need to have that first initial engagement with them, which I think is just super important. So let's talk about, let's see, for founders in the wellness space. What is one system or process that you implemented at Candor that significantly reduced your kind of administrative overhead or improved the patient experience? No, you said you didn't hire someone for like a receptionist,
yeah, we don't have a
but
receptionist.
do you have online appointment booking? You said you use text messages.
We just turned on our, like, online booking, and we're not seeing any of it, but I don't know if it's just because it's not consistent across the board, like, trying things out. The text messaging is honestly the best thing that we will do, is that, right, even if I miss a phone call, if I can shoot off a quick text, even if I'm in session, say like, "Hey, I'm gonna call you in 15 minutes when I get done with session." Those people can convert into just having the ability to, and our voicemail will even say, "Yes, we are happy to
That's
respond
great.
back via text."
Yeah.
So I think the text messaging has been the biggest thing. We're working with a firm right now to do our own CRM. So they're
Mm.
creating us for all of that. So it's all in one place for us to be housed. But it is something, I think, I'm trying to think of the most efficient. Yeah. We're still also working on how do we get reviews, because it is really hard in this space to solicit reviews. It's actually
Mm.
unethical to ask for a client to. So, well, it's on a borderline, and then it's also a very weird HIPAA compliance, right? Because
Mm.
Google won't let you post anonymously. And if, I've seen Jane Doe for 5 years, and finally she graduates from therapy. And then I send an option of, if you feel like it, please put it on Google. It has to be Jane Doe's name and
Yeah.
from her Google, like from her Gmail. It
Yeah.
has. So it's really, it's like not a lot of people are going to want to put, I saw Megan for 5 years. She's amazing. Your
Yeah.
name, your right. It's attached. So it is hard. That's something we're also trying to work out, how we get reviews as well.
It's interesting. This space really needs like an anonymous
Mm-hmm.
platform where people can also verify, that they actually did see the practitioner, but anonymously give reviews. I think that would be helpful for people. Like,
Even Yelp won't let us do that.
so weird.
I know
Yeah, you
Yelp
need your
flagged it, and you were like, "What? Guess no one knows that we're great." So yeah, so it just is. Yeah. So when we send out review emails, we have to send out like here are the options. You can do Facebook, Yelp, or Google, or you can just email us back, and we can just put it on our website.
Yeah.
Right, just depending on what
Yeah,
level of
that's a great
anonymity.
one too, like, because you can do kind of an anonymous, here's a little blurb about Jane Doe said after graduating from therapy.
From JD.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, so interesting. Okay, so as a founder and a clinical supervisor, what is your philosophy on team building? Like, how do you recruit and retain high quality LPCs and ensure clinical consistency as the practice grows?
We like a teaching model. So we actually have a lot of sub license, so supervisors in social work and residents in counseling.
Mhm.
So we're kind of training people who, and we don't bring on people who are fresh out of grad school. We're not bringing on somebody who is, I just graduated. Okay, that's almost a lie. But the one person we did has specialized, they're my resident. They're so niche down into eating disorders that it is like, yes, like that, right?
We
So
need
if it's
this.
a
Yeah.
specialist that's needed, happy to niche down, right? But we're gonna find somebody who, because we have to be very independent. You work on
Mhm.
your own, you're in your own house. If you don't know how to call 911 while your client's on a computer right, like if you don't have that, we're not hiring
Mhm.
you. So our interview is lengthy. We have a phone screen, and then after this like 15-minute phone screen and fit call, then we have an hour-long interview with two people. Two of the four co-owners have to be in your interview. Then from there, we decide based on what our needs are. Do we have enough clients? Do we have that specialty? And then there to make sure that, right, so as I'm training my resident, as we're training the residents in the practice, they're going to do exactly how we want them to. And then when
Mhm.
they become licensed, we have well-trained
Yeah.
clinicians. It started out that we hired people we knew.
Which
So it started
sometimes
out
is
we
the
brought on,
best.
right, we
Yeah.
brought on somebody who was willing to just like try it out with us, and then they came on full-time, and then and all of our part-time people kind of tried out, and then they all want to come on
Mhm.
full-time. Then what we're also doing is we have internal chats. So we have like a full staff chat. We have a referral chat, basically Slack lines, but Google Chats. And the clinicians themselves started a clinician-only chat. So,
We don't
right,
know what's going on in
I
there.
have no idea. And then I would love to be a fly. I have no idea. No one's told me that they have a problem with it. So we'll go with everything. Everything's fine until it's not. But then every owner has office hours. We all have regular times where the staff are invited to like pop in. Mine are from 8 to 9 on Friday mornings. So people will randomly, to music, and somebody pops in my office hours. I'm like, oh, hey, oh, sorry about hello, good morning. And then we're regularly like sending out, if we find out somebody got married or somebody had a loss, we're sending
Yeah.
cards, we're sending flowers, we're sending gift cards. Somebody had a baby, like here's your $50 gift card to DoorDash, right? Like, the things
Yeah.
that show like we listen to you, we know what's going on in your life, we're here for you, and we want you to know that you're connected. And then once a year, we
Mhm.
take staff out for a staff thing. So then we send holiday gifts, and so yeah, we do our
That's
best to
awesome.
be connected.
It sounds like a great place to work. So, and I love too that you, like you said, have an educational model where you're bringing in residents. Is that something that's like required in the space, or is that something you decided to do?
It's not required. It is a part of our ethical code that you teach
Mm.
people who, so again, right, if we're going for, we want to be the most ethical possible, we definitely have to follow our ethical codes. So
Mhm.
that's part of it, is training up the next kind of generation.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually was just talking not an hour and a half ago with my partner about like, I don't know how we got on the subject. We were talking about surgeons, and it's like nobody ever goes into surgery and is like, "This is my first surgery.
Right.
Like, I'm about to do
Yeah,
it."
I don't want to see that person. That's true. So there is a
So,
misconception. It's a little different in this, so especially now in this political climate, right? They're trying to declassify LPCs and LCSWs. So for the graduate degree. I don't know if you follow this, but if it comes up right in
Uh-huh.
your right.
Yeah.
So frustrating because when someone says that to me and I say, do you know how much schooling I went through before I could be licensed? Right? I had to go through 4 years of undergrad, 3 years of a graduate degree, and then my residency was 3.5 years. Usually that's between 2 and 4 for people. So we're looking at 7 years before I'm provisionally licensed, and then
Right.
10 before, right? That is the same amount of training as a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
PhD, psychologist, right? I have the same level of training are, the same. I get that. But
Right.
by the time that I've hit my residency, you have your internship. So you're not my first client, right? When I'm starting my
Right.
residency, I've been seeing clients for at least a year by the time that I do that. And then we take in, if you've been in therapy before and how much because the other weird thing about my profession, somebody brought this up to me, or maybe Instagram or something, but it was like therapists don't have to go through like an ethical board, like,
Mm.
lawyers do. They have to sit amongst an ethical board to get the bar, and we don't. So like a terrible human can be a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
which is awful. But suffice to say, all of that, it is something, I get it. So it's hard to build a residence kind of books, so to
Right.
say. It's hard to build. It's less hard when I'm like, no, I've been licensed for, I don't know, 6 years, 20, what's that date? 2019, 6 years. So yeah, it's hard to say, you know, you should see a resident. I get not wanting to, but I also
Right.
can understand, right? Like it just depends, right? And you have to trust that the company is bringing in the people they say they're going to bring in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot that goes into the process, and I appreciate your point, which is what I was saying earlier with like just because you had a bad experience in therapy doesn't mean it
Right.
means you just haven't found the right person. And
Yeah.
I've had a bad one before, and
Same.
it happens, and it
Same.
stinks because it gives the industry a bad look when it's
Does.
like
Yeah.
with
And I
anything,
tell people if they've never been to therapy before, I say, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm like a strong ginger tea in therapy, very straight. I'm just going to tell you how it is, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. And you just have to
Yeah.
find what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Okay, so if you could give one piece of advice to a therapist or wellness professional who's considering leaving a group practice to start their own, what would that piece of advice be?
Start it as your part-time gig so that it can become a full-time thing. So we started Candor in October of 2023. We didn't start seeing patients until April of 24. And that was my first person because we were waiting on insurance panels. So it's just you apply and then you wait. So if I want to run my own practice, don't start tomorrow, right? Or when you start tomorrow, you start with founding your LLC. And then you're sole proprietor, right? Then you get your EIN, you use your home address to start because you can change your address. And then you start credentialing yourself if you want to take insurance. Then you start marketing, right? So if you start slow, and that's what we all did because it was more sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's harder if you have a full caseload somewhere else and you say, oh, well, I'm just going to take my clients with me. Well, if you can't bill their insurance for me, they're not coming. Right.
Yeah.
Right. They can't afford therapy I can't. I mean, I do pay for my own therapy, but it's been decade
Yeah.
of me getting here, right, to the point where
Yeah.
I can't afford my own therapy out of practice. And so I think how we started was more sustainable so that
Mm-hmm.
as we all started moving over, and when we moved over, we were having an issue with Anthem and it wouldn't reimburse. And so I was calling Anthem. I probably spent 25 hours on the phone with Anthem the first couple
Oh.
months that I was coming. Yeah. So, but then once I did it, then I could confidently like, okay, I'm going to move over a day at a time. And then as this person discharges, I'm going to take that hour over here.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of turned over my caseload instead of having the burden of completely quitting, having to start paneling myself, it taking a while. And then, so I think starting slowly, even though it's a lot of work,
Yeah.
you can do it more sustainably if you do it, piece by piece, and then you flip over relatively quickly.
That's great advice. And you can also throw yourself into some major stress if you're trying to, especially like you said, when licensing takes so long, you throw yourself into that and you don't have,
Right. And you don't know.
consistent.
No idea, because when you work for bigger companies, it usually takes them, 4 to 6 weeks to get you under their tax ID and with their
Right.
insurance panels. And so with yourself, you got to start from zero, and it could take up to 180 days for them
Ugh.
to say, sorry, you had a problem with your contract. Try again. Yes. Yeah. Great. Cool. Right. And then it's frustrating when you've paid somebody and they won't get back to you. So it's just do the research, do
Yeah.
it yourself. And then you get the fee schedule and you go, okay, I can take this many clients of this and give it the time that it kind of deserves. And then when you can, then you flip over. If you can emotionally, right?
Right.
Then you also have to wait for the 45 days later where they'll reimburse you. So even once you start looking at, if you started cold turkey today, it's going to take you, there are a few panels that are shorter, there are some that are longer. So, and then you have to build those clients up for those insurance panels, and then they don't pay you for 45 days past.
Yeah. Time. It's a lot of time. So you have to
Right.
have something that's sustaining you in that meantime. Yeah. That's really good advice. Okay. So looking ahead and just for the industry itself, like what's one major trend in the mental wellness industry that you believe practice owners need to be aware of in order to thrive in the next like 5 years?
I think the AI debate is where we're really like trying to focus on right now, because a lot of
Hmm.
people are using a ChatGPT for therapy, and it doesn't work because all it's been taught is to validate you. It doesn't. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's terrifying when people have psychosis or they're delusional and they don't have a human who goes like, you did
Yeah.
what? It sounds like you're saying
Yeah.
this. Right. So I think it's hard in that aspect because, and then we bring into the thing, how do we use AI ethically in our practice? So a lot of electronic health records will use AI for note taking. They'll listen to sessions, or you will put in, so it is, how's the privacy going to work with that? How do we use, right? Like they can say like they have a HIPAA compliant AI all day, but if you're recording my session, it is not HIPAA compliant. Someone can pull that data. So we won't use AI. Well, absolutely, you can type in a chat. Hey, here are four sentences from my from what I did. Can you make it
Yeah.
better? And then it'll spit you out a little note. But otherwise, we're not having them listen. We're not, because then, right, it opens this whole, if we go down the rabbit hole of what if someone wants to know about diagnoses that a client doesn't want, or right, your client notes are supposed to be as vague as possible to cover your butt. That's how we're taught to diet, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I don't, when people say, seen ones that are like, client, what happened in session is they said that they got with their friends and they keyed his car. And that's not what I'm documenting, right? Like that's right. Like I'm not gonna jot that down. I'm not gonna put that down, right? Don't subpoena me. It's gonna be, I don't recall, right? Because you're also, fun fact, allowed to tell as long as people say, well, what if I do wanna, I said, if you could kill a person yesterday and tell me today, can't do anything with that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
I just have to sit with that. And so I think AI is going to be this mess moving forward where people don't use
Yeah.
therapy and then they seek therapy, and then people are using AI to find therapists, who's the best therapist in Richmond. And so you have to be on that spectrum
Hmm.
right. So it's so nuanced of how do we use it effectively? How do we make sure that people aren't running their lives? Right.
Right.
How do I make sure that the privacy is still upheld, that I'm still doing the best possible? Yeah, I think AI is where
Yeah.
everything, and you can use it for good, you can use it for bad.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I even realized people were using ChatGPT as a therapist until a couple months ago, and my daughter is actually the one who brought it up. She was like, "Mom, my all my friends, they like use ChatGPT like a therapist." And I was like, "Do you do that?" She was like, "No, I don't do that. That's weird. Like, who knows what
That's
it's like? I don't know what it's going to say back to me. It doesn't know anything."
right, right. And so it's hard because it is that, like, it doesn't know the limit of when to tell you, like, hey, maybe you should seek therapy.
Right. Yeah.
And people are using that. And so I think we're going to run into a lot of people have used ChatGPT, and we have to do a lot more work at breaking down negative thought patterns.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that'll be interesting as we
Right.
move
Good,
forward. I
bad,
think
and
that's a
otherwise.
Yeah, it's like people when they bring up AI, it's like I'm like it's a tool, right? It's just like the internet. like a lot of people were scared of it when it came out. And there are some scary aspects to it. It's like a hammer. You can use it to build a house, or you can use it to kill somebody. So it's all how you're using the tool is whether you're going to have a good outcome or not. And so we just have to be careful that we're using tools appropriately and to our best benefit for the whole. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the mental health space navigates the onset of AI. Well, cool. Well, Megan, this has been incredibly insightful. I really appreciate all of your tips, all your advice, and kind of hearing about your story. You've highlighted very crucial areas, especially, around the mental health space and creating an ethical group that you really can be proud of. It sounds like you're really creating a great practice there, which I love. So I want to thank you for joining us. And this is Megan Davidson. And where can we find you? What's your website?
www.candortherapynetwork.com.
Perfect. Okay. And I'll put that in the notes of the podcast as well. So this is Megan Davidson from Candor Therapy Network. And I want to thank you for joining us on the Practice Pulse. And
Thanks
to
for
our
having me.
listeners, thanks for being here. And we will see you next time.